right. Well, I'm jumping the gun. All right. Good evening. Let's call this. All of this is a good afternoon too. Meeting to order. It's October 4th. We're here at the Civic Center, and we have representatives from Pastor Bill Donovan here to discuss with us. Everyone is aware that we are in the process of starting a movement in town for a new pier, and they were chosen as our engineering company, and they both have two representatives here, and we will just sort of turn, it's more of a workshop environment, just to get any questions that you might want answered, and also to hear what they have to tell us about what they're going to do for us. So we'll just turn it over to Dave. Or Dave, that's right. Dave 1 and Dave 2. I forgot about that.
I'm Dave from Pensacola. With me is Dave from Panama City. Dave Hemphill, Dave Plavkamp. It's easy to remember us. First of all, I'm happy to be here, happy we're selected. I personally have been the project manager on the piers in Pensacola, Panama City Beach, and in Bay County. Did all three of them. Very enjoyable. We're good? They were good projects. The end result was good. We learned a little bit on each one of them, and I'll answer any questions you may have. The first pier at Pensacola was a wood pier that failed. They had no money to rebuild it. You've asked us for two things. Number one, engineering expertise to design and coordinate the bidding and construction of the pier. Number two, assistance with obtaining funding, locating funding to pay for the pier. And in Pensacola, the storm of '94 damaged the pier quite a bit. It was a private pier at that time. The owner gave the pier to the government, and it was taken down. It wasn't until 2000 that all the funding was secured. It was a 6-year gap that it took to get the pier back. And I say that to tell you that it's not an overnight deal. It's going to take a little while. The design takes a little while, but the permits take longer. But in the interim, we can also be working on funding. I won't go a whole lot into detail of the design of the pier. What we propose is a concrete structure consistent with the state of Florida guidelines, Department of Beaches and Coastal Systems. It needs to be built to certain requirements that it will not fall down in a storm. And the picture on the cover of our presentation is our best-selling document. That's Hurricane Ivan going over top the pier at Pensacola Beach. It was about a $5 million pier in 2000. It sustained $45,000 of damage on a direct hit Category 3. So that's what we're looking at for you too. We lost some handrails, we lost some panels, blow-away panels. The superstructure didn't move. Moving on to Panama City Beach, their pier was destroyed. We negotiated with FEMA to pay for the majority of the cost to rebuild it. We were the technical resource backing up the city engineer and the mayor on their work with FEMA. We gave them design criteria. We gave them cost estimates. Obviously, the pier they built was better, what FEMA would call betterment, and there was a lot of discussion over whether they should pay for betterment. They finally said, yes, we'll accept that. We will pay for betterment as long as it is not subject to a repetitive loss. And that was their criteria. They'll buy it once, they don't want to buy it twice. So the Dan Russell Pier was built at their pier park. You may have been there before. It's done real well. A lot of folks like me, we just walk to the end. It's a quarter mile down, it's a quarter mile back. There's your exercise. Then, at the same time that was under design, Bay County came to us and said, we would like to buy the plans and build a similar pier down the road for MB Miller Pier, the replacement of that pier. And we were happy to do that. We bid them both at the same time in 2007. They bid at just over $7 million each. They were each about 1,500 feet long. Once the crane came off the Dan Russell Pier, it walked right down the beach, and climbed up and started driving piles for the MB Miller Pier. So same contractor got the bids for both of them. He put them in the ground. He was from just north of Miami. He was a good contractor. We had excellent results with him. I would use him for a resource to help us in pricing this document. That's the technical end of it, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on the technical design of the pier. What we're looking at for your replacement pier, probably plus or minus 1,000 feet. These piers are 22 to 26 feet wide. We think you need something around 16 feet wide. The width of the pier is driven by the size of the crane required. That's the heaviest load that it will take. It's very difficult to build this structure from a barge, and you subject yourself to lots of change orders because of weather. If you put the crane on top of the structure, the weather doesn't have a factor. He can work in the rain, doesn't bother him. So that's why you build it top down. It's more economical. You can work 7 days a week if you want to. 1,000 feet, maybe 16 feet wide, and we would like to get it to the greatest depth of water available to you. In the similar footprint, you're going to have a submerged land lease adjustment because it appears at first blush that your lease follows the perimeter of the pier expansion. I don't think there's a whole lot of distance. We're looking to add plus or minus 200 feet beyond where your current pier is. It gets you to a little deeper water, a little better view, a little better fishing, we hope. So that's the discussion on the design. Concrete structure, wood handrails, sacrificial deck. If it has another Category 3, we hope that it will fare just as well as the Pensacola Beach Pier did at a Category 3. That you'll have minimal damage, you'll be able to put that thing back in short order and go back to fishing. The discussion on financing. We're looking at someplace $5–6 million, maybe more. I don't know at this point for a new pier. There's not a lot of grant applications that will pay for a project of that magnitude. So two sources of money are obvious. Triumph Gulf Coast being the first one, and it's in process very shortly. And then a legislative line item through the legislature. That's how Pensacola was funded. Typically on a legislative line item, what I've seen, what Pensacola did is it was a two-step process. Get a starter kit, get the design done, get the permits in hand, get a set of bids, get started, and then the legislature, if they so choose, funds the remainder of it the following year. So it's boom, boom. You shouldn't have a gap in between. You should keep going. But that's the easiest way that I've seen to fund it to a legislative line item. Triumph Gulf Coast, you've been reading the papers, going to the meetings, I'm sure, heard all the discussion. We're following that on a variety of projects, and we'll be happy to do that for Mexico Beach. We'll have representatives at the meetings, and we'll put together a package that will describe what you're asking for, the size of it, the need, and the cost. And we'll, with your assistance, bring that to the front during the presentations for the money there from BP. So that's the nickel version of what we're talking about doing. I'll open it up for questions and then get into anything that I've blushed over so far.
With you all following others at the Triumph, other projects, does this fit in? Will this be something that you think potentially would be available for that?
This is a new process.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know, but it is definitely water related, economic development. It's, in a certain sense, city building. The fishing pier here in Mexico Beach is the ground zero for the city of Mexico Beach. I think it's right up there.
Okay.
Again, the politics, and there are politics involved in this process. You will need to get involved in that and help yourself as much as possible with that, the discussion and talking to your neighbors.
What is, early on you said betterment.
The pier at Dan Russell was a concrete pier. It was low to the water, it was narrow, and it was broken. We built a pier that was higher, stronger, wider. FEMA would pay for putting back what was there
There.
before. This is better than that, and that's the term they use, is betterment.
Okay.
They don't like to pay for betterment, because everybody wants, yeah, can we just add this, can we just add that? The reason they paid for betterment in this case, it was to defeat the potential for repetitive loss.
So the height seems to have something to do with it?
It does. The hardest situation that a pier has to face is what the coastal engineer calls a slapping occurrence, where the wave hits the outward beam straight on. If the wave is higher and goes over, it's not as bad, or if it goes under. But if it slaps it right there, it vibrates all the way through, and that's when you have a lot of damage. So we need to design for that one motion and make sure the pier will survive that kind of motion. We do that in a number of ways. The sacrificial deck, that relieves a lot of pressure on the structure. Elevating it, we used to say elevation is salvation in fishing piers. If you can get that beam up above the storm, and like I say, most of these piers we built at elevation 26. So it's well above most of the storms. That makes a huge difference in the survivability of a pier. So that's what we would propose to do. The other two things that you can do, the depth of the piles makes a major difference, and the connection details on how all the concrete structures are tied together make a big difference. So that's what we've learned in the past.
So you suggest the height as opposed to the lower design?
Oh, yes. Like I say, elevation is salvation for survivability. We have a coastal engineer, the same team that built these three piers are on your pier. And that coastal engineer does a number of site-specific calculations and design efforts, and will tell you where your storm event will occur and what elevation your pier needs to be.
So you referred to a category 3. Is that the highest standard, category 3?
You know, that's where we designed in the past. That's what the state of Florida funded on these previous piers. You could design to something even stronger, but your height goes up. And then your fishermen start saying, I can't pull my fish up that distance. So it's a balance.
Yes, and probably the state wouldn't like the cost going up either.
No, they wouldn't. And it looks goofy that high out of the water. So you got to find a magic balance, something that will survive yet still be usable. Time is important. Your legislature is getting ready to sit this fall. Triumph Gulf Coast is in process. So we need to get a package put together quickly and get both of those avenues opened. The success is something I can't speak to, but you know, like in golf, you're never in if you're never up. So we'll try and get you in process on both those.
In your design, is there any, and I say this because my grandchildren come and they love to go down there 2:30 when it's as hot as it can be. Is there any shade provided?
Sure, you can build shade structure in there. The state of Florida used to tell us no element that is not water related. And which that means is you can't put your restroom out there. You can't put a bait shop out there. You can't put all sorts of stuff. Well, they're starting to come off that a little. Because, you know, if you're a quarter mile out and you're in a wheelchair and you need to go to the restroom, it's a quarter mile back. And so they're starting to understand at Navarre Pier, they've got a variance just recently to put a restroom mid-pier. That's a wonderful thing if you're out there fishing for a while instead of walking all the way back. And shade structures are nice, with the exception, I don't recommend the canvas ones because all these guys fishing, you know? So yeah, shade structures, benches, water or turtle-friendly lights, handicap accessibility everywhere, on the ramp up, on the boardwalk, and on the board rail, handrail, all to be handicap accessible. It's important.
Any questions from out front? Anything we might want to ask Dave with Mastodon?
I just want to know if the city or y'all are looking at the same location. What about location?
As far as I know, yeah, putting it at exactly the same location. The submerged land lease is there currently, you have a parking lot there currently. I don't know if there's another location available to you, so,
And would the old pier come down or stay?
no, it'd have to come down.
Come down, okay.
So how long would it take typically to tear the old pier down and replace the new pier?
14 to 18 months is what these other contracts took. Whatever debris comes off the old pier has to be hauled off. It cannot be dropped. You can't build fishing reefs, even though that's what we're doing. You cannot do that. So if this being a wood pier wouldn't be a big deal. That all goes back. But we had concrete.
It wouldn't be a big deal?
The wood wouldn't stay there.
Oh, okay.
You'd have to bring it back. But we asked if we could drop some of the concrete on some of these previous jobs. That's not acceptable to the state of Florida.
Yeah, they try to make it about as difficult as possible.
And sometimes you wonder. Permitting with the state really is not too bad. The Corps takes longer. They're concerned about Gulf sturgeon, very concerned. Permits are going to take a year. That's the way
A
it is.
year?
A year, yep. Or 12 months. It's one of the two. It's going to take a while.
Would you tear the old pier down before you got permits then, or do you have to wait until you get permits?
I would prefer to bid both, the demolition and the new construction at the same time and have the same contractor do it all. So let them fish as long as they can, would be my recommendation.
So would this go out past the sandbar?
Well, down in that area, there's two. It would
Yeah.
get us mid-range, which would be ideal compared to what we have. You know, we put the extension, if you would, that was recently put on, 3 years ago, give or take, got us to the edge of the first sandbar. This is gonna take us mid-range. I don't know the depth of water, but I'm gonna guess
You're-
16, 18 feet, I'm guessing.
Right now, your report said you're at 9 feet of water currently. So yeah, if you go on past the sandbar, you're probably going to get 3, 4, 5 feet at least.
Yeah, yeah. And that's significantly, that's a significant depth change for fish and fishing.
Yeah.
What is the length now, Al?
800 feet.
It's 800, we're looking at another 200 probably.
And that'll get us, and that's just a number. I mean, I guess there could be some economics there that could change
Sure.
that, but
Sure.
I stood out there and looked at where 200 more feet would take us. And I just see that as practical for Mexico Beach as far as the depth of water and what it would do for the fishing.
We
And
talk-
the view.
Yeah, we talking about teeing it too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some kind of structure at the end. On our previous jobs, we bid the job in 30-foot increments. That was called a bent. And we put an additive alternate in for, you go 1,000 feet, what would the additional 30 cost you? So we'll know what that'll cost, and,
Okay.
if the funds are available, we'll see.
So how do you get paid?
I get paid by you through either your in-house budget or through the grant, whatever funding mechanism.
So if we don't get the grant, we pay you for all the work you've done to that point.
Yep, that's true.
Do you have any idea what something like that costs?
We're charting unproven waters at the moment. I'm guessing more than 30, less than 80, someplace in that range, depending on where we go, what we get into. I can prepare a package for you, a fixed package, and we can get it submitted. Now, after that, if you say, I need more, then we'll see. Part of this is politics and your ability and how you navigate state politics. That's bottom line. How this thing gets funded, where you come up in the priorities.
Well, I'm sure CDC would help us.
One of the things, Dave, we talked about earlier, that you're going to send us back, you went through a sort
Yeah.
of a checklist of things
Yeah.
that you recommend for us to, we have to have something to move the ball forward.
That's a good point. I need to give you the tools that you need to be successful in obtaining funding for this project. A rough set of construction plans, some kind of schematic to be able to visualize what we're asking for, a cost estimate, at least get me, is it this much or this much? Get you into a range to know what you're gonna ask for. The final number will be generated from bids, but you need to be able to know those things. So you've got the land tied up, you got an existing submerged land lease, we'll have to modify, but at least you've got something there. Those are the things in your pocket we'll just need to add to.
And we're gonna get that from you in a scope of work.
In about a week,
In
I will
about a
give
week,
you a
you're gonna
letter.
supply that
Yep.
to us with a cost
Yes.
for outlining what it is you're gonna provide to us.
Exactly.
Okay.
And at the very end, there'll be some open-ended discussions about, where's this thing gonna go? And you'll have to talk about that. We do have, like I said, other clients going through this same path, and we'll be traveling some of that same ground, and so you can be right there with them.
So how much is it gonna cost to get to that point?
Again, I
They
think
don't
this
give us that.
initial package, I'll get you in a week.
You'll tell us what it's gonna cost.
Exactly, in writing. I sent you a draft contract. Have you had a chance to look at that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's just our
And
standard
just
two-page.
for the record, the city, back when the canal project was started, and some now 8 years ago, this was a similar path. The city paid for upfront engineering for the drawings and the engineering and the layout and all the things that were required to even start for the canal. And it proved extremely helpful in getting funding and getting people to talk to us when you could roll something out and say, let me show you, here's what I'm talking, this is what I'm seeking you to help me with. Better than a napkin drawing, I refer to. So,
Yeah.
there will be some funds that we'll have to address as far as how far do we want to go with getting something that we can go seek some funding for, and that's what he's going to supply us. And that was done the same way for that we just, when we finished up on the canal. That city, I can't remember, but it was, I don't know what it was. It was somewhere in the $100,000 range. But a lot of that money came back in the end. So, through the grants and through
Sure.
additional through funds that we required, so. All right, is there any, yes?
So, in taking what you just said and going from there, where would the city get that initial funding?
There's some funds that were not spent on the canal project. And I never like for government to use the word surplus funds. I've never liked that term, but it's something that we all can refer to. There were funds, and I don't know what that number is, but there are monies available from that. I don't even know I don't know that we're through yet, are we?
Not totally.
I mean, but we know that is that project totally signed out?
No, sir.
I didn't think it was. So, but there's some, starter kit money. I'm gonna remember that word. I like that.
Yes,
Starter
that's-
kit money.
Yep.
Available for us to, at least we can see what, we gotta get something on paper, we gotta see, and everybody's gotta have a warm fuzzy feeling about making this commitment, because that's what you just have to stay at it. Yes, ma'am.
When you keep saying that the politics of this, what exactly does that mean?
The funding opportunities are open to the whole state. Well, Triangle Gulf Coast, the 8 affected counties, and the rest of its entire state. Both those funding sources are affected by politics. Who gets what, how that money is shared. You gotta make your requests, you gotta have enough information to back it up. Your local politicians make a lot of those decisions, and that's what I
say, this is called what, what fundings did you say?
Triumph Gulf Coast, that's the
Yes.
DD money?
Yes.
Yeah. That's just getting started right now.
So then that's when we would have to have somebody fighting hard for us to get these fundings?
You got to have an application in with everybody else, and like I said, if you don't have an application, you're not going to get anything. So you got to have an application, and then, you know, they prioritize the best projects. We'll see where you end up.
So this is kind of like,
Shooting fish in a barrel.
yeah.
Yeah, a great big barrel.
Yeah.
Our existing pier, I mean, needs repair, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's in terrible, I mean.
Terrible shape.
You know, it's been inspected and during adverse weather conditions, they
Closed.
want us to close it.
Yeah, this weekend they did.
weekend.
Yeah.
So,
If there's a problem this weekend, you guys give me a call.
The current pier that we
Was
have,
it in bad shape before they put the T on it, or?
Yes, ma'am.
It's like- It's when you put the T on
the current pier that we have, there's a large section of the original structure that is no longer connected to the piles themselves. We have piles that are scabbed onto other piles.
That's nearly a boat.
It's unsafe to say the least.
The
And
T part. The T part.
And that's-
And when you say bad shape, let me clarify, you know, you get some of these meetings, we didn't put the extension on it because what was there was stable, but it was old. If you recall, you could, before the extension, the pier barely got into the water. It was mostly over the land. So the expense of that addition was an attempt to give our pier, make it at least usable in terms of the function of it, to get it out in the water. And now we've gotten, I mean, it's a wood structure and it's old, and it's, even the new part, I think they're planning to, I was told they've got that part, those parts coming to stabilize that.
we got the parts at the shop.
Okay, so,
And have we ever determined how much it would cost to fix what's needing to be repaired?
Last cost estimate to fix just the front end was $120,000.
And if we went to the expense to do all this, would we do like other coastal towns and charge for people to use this pier?
That would be a council decision, not mine.
I mentioned, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, it's Dave, if we got more questions for him.
Well, this is a question for, I don't know what the specifics, I've read them a couple of times, of what the CDC does with its money. But could they help us with this project?
It depends on what, yeah, I mean, that's within their scope.
That's kind of what I was thinking, you know, I mean, we are in the same city, so I'm a, you know, we don't always, well, I shouldn't say anything.
Well,
I should keep my mouth shut.
It's
Al,
been
am I
hard to get
right
it
that if nothing else, that the political aspect of getting things out and talking to people, they would be a great help?
Well, yeah, and they could help us advertise.
Let me, Dave's got a long way to go. We got more questions for him.
Oh.
We'll be hearing from you then in about a week, and thank you much for coming over and sharing your thoughts with us.
Well, thanks for the selection. We look forward to working on our project. It may take a little while, but we'll get through it. Very
All
out.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now, is there other comments about the pier? That's what we're here for. Any other thing?
So the meeting today, this is to determine if we will spend the funding for the study or.
Purpose today is a meet and greet, let the council meet these guys and from Baskerville Donovan and be told that in a week they're gonna send us back a scope of work that they feel is what we need to kick off this project. And then we'll have something on paper to look at and see what it is that they're gonna ask us monetarily as well as what we're gonna get for them. That was the only
Yeah,
purpose.
we're wanting to be able to make application for some of the BP money.
Absolutely.
I mean, that has to be done right away.
Okay.
If I could just add one thing, the question was asked earlier about charging admission to go on the pier. We have 2 submerged land leases from the state, one for the canal, one for the pier. The one for the canal costs us about $600+ a year. The one at the pier costs us nothing as long as we don't charge admission. So if we were to charge admission, we'd need to redo our permit.
Okay. All right. Thank you again. Motion for adjournment.
Mayor,
Yeah.
sorry, this has got nothing to do with the pier, guys. Just wanted to give the council an update real quick. As probably everybody's aware, we got a storm brewing down south, supposed to come up this way, possibly affect our area. Had a staff meeting, emergency staff meeting with my guys right before this meeting, get the ball rolling as far as getting stuff on lockdown for the city. Just wanted to let you guys know, if anybody needs sandbags, we have sandbags at City Hall. Any elderly folks, disabled folks who need sandbags, we still have full sandbags at the yard that we will take to them and set them up wherever they want them at. And if anybody has any questions, concerns, please feel free to contact me and we'll help out anybody that we can, any way that we can.
You got it. Yeah, that, unfortunately, that weather pattern has changed and it's got us edgy again, so. All right, again, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
thank you everybody for coming.